Apple gets into the sports game. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Backblaze. MacVoices listeners get a fully featured no-risk free trial at backblaze.com/MacVoices. So let's move on because what seems to be a big story and there seem to be two camps going on with this. And I know Marty is in one of those camps, and that is the new sports app that Apple developed. And so, Marty, you were the one that put it in our private Slack about, it sounded like you have a real passion about this.
I am not a big sports fan, but baseball season, so that's kind of fun. Baseball season has started, and with spring training games, and I'm a Chicago North Sider, so I like to see the Cubs play. And unfortunately, that's the thing not being covered in the sports app. And so that's a little bit of and I've been waiting for that to happen. I've been waiting for that to open up. And the MLB app is working for the games, and I can see them. The MLB app is not working on Vision Pro yet. So I read a little bit more about this. I have a better understanding of it, the Six Colors article, and then there were other articles talking about how this really seemed to be a pet project. And it appears as the person whose pet project really likes basketball, because there was no problem with basketball scores coming out, but nothing with baseball at this point, which really surprises me because of Apple's history of connecting with Major League Baseball in the past. I would like to see it turn into an app that can connect me to live feed, so I don't have to go to live feed and then go to scores. I don't think it's going to wind up being integrated as much as I would like it to be, but so we go. That's sort of my passion about it. And like I said, I love the fact that you can switch off the betting stuff, because I think any other platform has lots of betting ads on it. But I'm really just patiently waiting for my Cubs scores to pop up in Apple Sports.
Brian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I downloaded the sports app. I agree, like with most of the articles, it's pretty bare bones at the moment overall. But one of the greatest things that I see as part of it right now is the fact that it's just that information. I don't see a bunch of ads in the way. So the information that is there is extremely accessible. So, for example, they have the standings where the team stands in comparison to other teams, wins and loss records, that type of thing. They have stats, box score type stats, just incredible for what they offer without having yet the ads that are in the way. Because there's a ton of sports that I'll watch and follow, and going between I like using the CBS Sports app. I like using the ESPN app. Apple's the Apple TV app, the Apple app, TV app on the iOS is useful to an extent, but it's missing some things. And I wonder down the road, is it going to go the other way? Is Apple going to then put some of that information onto the sports app instead? Because it does seem to me a little bit out of place when it's on with all the other Apple TV Plus type things. When I get my notifications on the Apple TV app on iOS saying, such and such episode has dropped for a particular show I'm following, that's great, But at the same time, I'll get a notification saying that the D-backs are just about for starting pitch pretty soon, and it just seems so odd. And oftentimes there are some integrations where you go and watch sports, and if you subscribe within Apple TV Plus, you can watch it. But many of my teams that I follow are not subscribable through the Apple TV Plus subscription as an add-on. And so therefore I'm automatically going out anyways and getting it from a different source. So I'm excited. I know this is like an early version. I agree with some of the articles that say maybe it's a little too rushed, maybe it's a little bit too bare bones at first, but I'm really excited to see what happens in the next season or two.
Ben?
Look,
And to suit up first.
Yes. I had somebody called in from the bullpen. With the initial launch, Apple focused on the games that are currently in season. Basketball, hockey, men's and women's college basketball. Those soccer type things that I never watch. They have already stated that they will have integration with Major League Baseball by opening day. That is a priority. With the NHL, not the NHL, but NFL coming by its opening day. And I have not yet heard anything about the upcoming spring UFL.
No.
What I think is we are very, very early. This is kind of just to kind of get the ball rolling. I would not be surprised if the sports video functionalities that are currently in the TV app eventually got moved over to sports. I think when WWDC comes around, the sports app will be talked about.
Okay. Eric.
I just think the speed part of it is important. Speed and no ads. It's like what I want from a weather app. I want it responsive. I want it to show up, give me the information I want. Don't give me any ads and don't make me wait.
Are you willing to pay for that?
If I have to. Right now, I'm not paying for it. I paid for Dark Skies. It went away, but it was nice while it existed, and it was fast.
Okay.
So, but the speed is, I think, important. There are a lot of apps out there that have a lot of information, and it takes forever to get it.
I want to come back to the speed thing, but I want to get Jeff in. Jeff?
All right. So as the guy that's clearly not into spectator sports, I'm looking at this from I'm assuming a different perspective. And what I'm seeing is Apple getting something out there that is not just US centric, that addresses what I've been hearing as complaints about sports apps from friends over the years. And I think Apple felt they needed to get this out now so that people are already familiar with it, so that when WWDC comes around and they start talking about the other things that can happen with it, it'll already be a thing that's out there and developers are familiar with. And I think that Apple's goal, which, Marty, I know this is not what you're expecting, but I think Apple ultimately is going to pleasantly surprise you and turn this into like a nexus for sports. So the things that you want, where you get to see the videos or you get pointed to the right place to watch whatever content you want to watch, I think that's part of Apple's master plan with this. And it's just another aspect of Apple coming up with compelling ways, potentially compelling ways, to keep people locked inside the whole Apple ecosystem. Apple wants to be our everything.
And I'm so disappointed because they were my everything until this app. But I have faith, Jeff, that they'll come around.
Yeah, patience, young Jedi.
Jim, are you back?
Am I?
You are back. Good.
And I have nothing to say about the sports app.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that when the spirit moves you, that you're ready. Guy, I know you're a UFL fan, and you also have thoughts on the sports app.
Yeah, not so much the app itself, but Apple's problem with sports in that it is so fragmented with all of the major leagues doing money grabs instead of what's probably really best for the sport itself. Even last year when we were having NFL games that were blanked out, a friggin' playoff game. Unless you were subscribed to Peacock, you couldn't watch a particular playoff game. And the NFL seems to think that if, we're so popular that people will go ahead and grab all of these other apps and pay for a monthly fee just so that they don't miss out. And I think that that's very, very short-sighted, that people will rebel, that they're not going to subscribe to every single service under the sun just so that they can watch a football game or a hockey game or a baseball game. And when you consider how, especially when you look at baseball, how fragmented the broadcast rights are for baseball. You've got local, you've got national, you've got streaming, you've got like all of these different avenues that you have to kind of negotiate through if you're trying to be a hub for a particular sport or a particular league. You're going to find that you're just not going to be able to do it because all of these other people have exclusive broadcast rights. And that's the problem that not just Apple, but anybody that's jumping into this space is going to have to face.
But Guy, do you think it would be valuable enough that I could look up and see the Washington Commanders are on Network X, as opposed to just having to go to Google and say, where can I watch the Washington Commanders? Because right now that feels what it's like, and I don't watch that much in the way of sports, but when I want to see something, I want to know where to go.
Right.
And that's one of the frustrations is like, okay, it used to be I had three choices: ABC, NBC, CBS. Then we got Fox, and now all of a sudden we have the streaming services.
Right.
Well, yeah, and the ESPN too. They slid in there. Now, it takes a catalog or a Ouija board to figure out where the game you want to see is. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Backblaze. MacVoices listeners and viewers get a fully featured, no-risk free trial at backblaze.com/MacVoices. Go there, play with it, find out what it's all about, then start protecting yourself from potential bad days. Start today. There are several components to a successful backup strategy. The first is actually having a strategy. The second is making it easy. If it isn't easy, you aren't going to keep doing it, especially if you get busy or distracted. That's another reason you need Backblaze. Backblaze is easy. Launch the application, select what you want to back up, like your main hard drive and/or connected drives, and you're good to go. If you want a bit more control, Backblaze gives it to you. You can easily pick specific folders that you don't want backed up, decide how much of your bandwidth is used, select whether you want to back up continuously or at a specific time of day, even select types of files that you want excluded from your backup. After that, get back to work, knowing that your files are being automatically and securely backed up off-site by Backblaze. To see why Backblaze is recommended by Inc. magazine, go to backblaze.com/MacVoices, and while you're there, take advantage of the fully featured no-risk free trial. That's backblaze.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Backblaze for supporting MacVoices.
Well, fortunately, most of the games that people want to see, unless there's blackout rules applied, can still be seen on the major networks as far as the regular season goes with the NFL. When, all bets are going to be off. We'll see what they do next year. But it's getting to be where you're right. You almost have to, be a prognosticator to figure out where all these various teams are going to play. And if they go the same route as baseball, then you may not be able to see a game, even if you're paying
to see a particular team because that team is playing a team that has different type of broadcast rights. And this is a very slippery slope. And it's going to, fortunately, we're kind of, I think, in the beginning of a consolidation of all of these different services that are out there right now. And hopefully cooler heads will prevail. And when it comes to something like, if you're talking about regular broadcast TV, where you've got comedies and you've got dramas and you've got cop shows and lawyer shows and all the rest of that, who cares? You can put those on anytime you want through any service that you want, and it's not live. It doesn't matter. But when you're talking about sports or news related events, these are all things that are happening live. And if you can't watch them because the broadcast rights are restricted in your area, then you don't get to see it unless you're actually there. And it's a big mistake. And I look at some of the alternative leagues that are coming up. Like this year is going to be the first year with the UFL, which is the consolidation of the XFL and the USFL with 8 teams. And this may spell the success or failure for spring football, depending on what the UFL does. But so far, the people that seem to be in charge of the UFL have been smart, and they're making sure that the majority of their games are going to be on regular broadcast TV. You don't have to have, a special antenna and a voodoo priestess waving beads over her head to be able to see these games. And we'll see how that prevails over the coming year. But I think most of these leagues need to kind of remember that without the fans, they don't exist.
Okay. Brian, I wanted to get you in because you made a comment in our chat that I said I wanted to get back to the speed thing. And at some point, how immediately do you need to know that somebody hit a home run? If you don't have it on TV, and then you, Brian, brought up the betting, and it's like, okay, I better shut up because I'm clearly don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to those kind of sports.
Sure. One thing that's prominently in those Apple Sports app is the sports betting lines. So you see the money line, whether who's going to win, and by betting odds of favorite and underdog. You have the over-unders, and you have like the run line, where you can see how what's the projected amount that the one team is going to win by versus the other. Those types of things. I've read some articles. Some people are upset at seeing some of the sports betting that's in the apps. I just did a quick search, and I guess there are currently 30 of the 50 states that do offer legal sports betting, and then there are constantly new ones. The legislatures have on a regular basis, just adding more. But yeah, even just watching ESPN, they now have their own sports book that they own, and you constantly see the sports wagering all the time. Whether that becomes live, because then you have live updating. So you might have a team that's favored over the other team, and then as the game goes on, those odds change based on the outcome of what's happening on the court or the field at that time. So right. If they integrate the live aspect into that, as opposed to just what it was prior to the tip-off or kickoff or first pitch, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. I think all their lines are all connected to DraftKings. So Apple's not doing it themselves.
iCasino.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Marty, you said there's a switch in the app.
Yeah, I kept hearing about the betting lines, and I find them fascinating. I'm not a betting person, but it wasn't showing up in the app for me. And then so I went into settings to see if there was something I could do. And sure enough, the switch for turning off all that betting information at least on my app, was defaulted off because I didn't turn it on to begin with. So yeah, there is apparently a switch in settings where you can turn all that stuff off if you want to.
Good.
So I guess, Eric, I'm going to swing back to you since you started this. The betting, I admit, the betting gives me a little more pause as far as how quickly the score information needs to update for any given sport. So I get that if you're a betting person, that's really important. But if you're not, is that, I mean, I'm not sure. Do any of the DraftKings or the ESPNs or any of these, do they have pay for apps? Or is it just an app that,
So those apps are all free. They get their money by, likely more often than not over the course of a long time, you don't come out ahead.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. Ben, though, I wanted you to just touch on, before we move on from this topic, I wanted to have you touch on the comment that many fans have moved on from broadcast TV. I mean, how important is it that these sports be on broadcast TV or on a single or maybe two streaming services?
I think being able to get them in multiple locations is a necessity this day and age. I myself am in a position where unless I make a very expensive upgrade to my antenna situation, I am simply out of the range of terrestrial TV. As a Bears fan, which is in the National Football Conference, I cannot pay to get any kind of, as of right now. Yes, there are rumors that the service is coming, but as of the last couple seasons, unless I spend at least $80+ on either a cable on YouTube TV or a cable package, I cannot watch a Bears game live. And there are quite a few cord cutters out there. So, I mean, we're in a transitional period where, yeah, basically nobody's happy.
Did you used to be able to watch games live?
Yeah, because we had cable.
Okay.
But the thing is, right now, I can get live CBS through Paramount Plus. I can get live NBC through Peacock. Some of the ESPN/ABC games are available on through ESPN Plus. But right now, if I want to basically watch half of the NFL games, yeah, I have to pay $80
a month. Is that a month?
Yeah, a month. Yeah, a month.
It strikes me that we have someone here from the city of the Super Bowl champs that has not commented. And so I want to hear from you, because I know you and I've had some conversations about where the Chiefs games were being broadcast or streamed or whatever, and the fact that that affected the audience a bit.
I want to touch on something that Guy said a few minutes ago, is that the one playoff game was on Peacock.
Yep.
And that really did limit. Now, of course, being in the local market, it was broadcast on the local television, but that's local market rules. But the thing that surprised me about that was that was, I'm going to get the definition wrong, but it was like the largest streaming event in the history, that football game, and some phenomenal percentage of the internet traffic was on that one event. So on one hand, we complain about it going to the streaming services, but on the other hand, I think it's coming. It's a revenue source for the NFL, and there's one thing that I've learned. I've had the opportunity. I didn't go this year, but I've been to 2 Super Bowls. The first 2 that the Chiefs won in Phoenix, and then the first one in Miami. That is, the NFL has that thing locked down as a revenue generator only. Also, last year, you may recall that the NFL draft was here in Kansas City, and that was a revenue generator. It was funny that and sad at the same time. We heard about the parade and all the tragedy that happened at the Super Bowl parade for the Chiefs. That was the same venue that they did the NFL draft, but what the NFL draft did was that they funneled everybody through a huge security checkpoint, whereas for the parade it was just, come downtown and find some place to go. The NFL is very much tied to revenue generation. I heard something once that I thought it struck me kind of odd. It had to do with the Chicago Cubs. The owner of the Cubs was on a radio talk show, and somebody called and says, "Why does a beer cost $20?" And the owner of the Cubs says, "Why does starting pitching cost $20 million?"
Tom Ricketts, probably.
Yeah. And you all that are in Chicago follow the fans know the story better than I do. So, but it just caught me as a surprise. Now that being said, I do subscribe to NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube. I'm a huge fan of it. I'm sitting here right now, and I have the TNT basketball game on in the room, just right there. So I am kind of a sports fan. The sports app is kind of disappointing. Like Guy said, I wish it had the preseason baseball games on, and it doesn't. I'm not a huge NBA fan. I wish it had a better breakdown of the college men's basketball games that are going on, but you got to pick your conference as opposed to say, show me everyone that's playing right now. At least I can't get that to come up. Maybe I'm wrong, but I enjoy it. But the world's switching over to streaming, whether we like it or not. Pretty soon your Phoenix Open, Chuck, is going to be a streaming event. So.
Yep. No, you're right. You're right.
And the Masters too, for that matter. So.
Well, the Masters already, of course, they partner with CBS. And I mean, I do this every year, but if you want to see a sports app done right for a given sports event, download the Masters app in April and watch it, because they are utilizing every camera out there that CBS has. They give you, you can watch multiple coverages of the event, not just a stream of the broadcast, but things that are only available, on the app. And so it's a masterclass in how it should be done. Hey, I want to make sure I welcome back Dave Ginsburg. He was, well, I'm not sure where he was hiding, but he was under.
I went down to the basement because there was tornado sirens going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everything's starting to clear up here. So I figure I'd come back.
Good.
It's a good topic because I'm as you know, I'm pretty into the streaming world too. And I don't know what you touched on, but I will add my comment about the sports, because there's rumor that the 3 of the biggest sports networks are going to merge into one, and I think there's a lot of these networks are starting to be a little concerned about that, because you're going to kind of be a monopoly of putting all these networks into one place here. I understand where everything is so saturated in the stream market, and I've talked about it on my podcast tons of times about. It's just fascinating to watch the way cord cutting has progressed here, and you've got all these cable companies that are losing subscribers like crazy. I cut the cord on you doing YouTube TV, and but this, but the sports is just such a big thing with everybody. I mean, not everybody, but with a lot of people. I mean, it's such a popular thing, and And the problem is you have to subscribe to all these different services to get what you want. And I agree with Ben. You know, you're paying a lot of money, and I feel for Ben because he's in an area where he's on borders of 3 different states, and he doesn't get the fairness of, you know, we're both Bears and Cubs fans, and I live in Chicago area, so I'm okay being able to watch them. And unfortunately for him, he can't. I mean, and those rules have to be. They have to rethink these rules. I mean, it's not something that. It was good back in the 70s and 80s, probably, when, you know, back in the days when they were restricting if they didn't sell out an NFL game, a home game, they wouldn't show it locally anymore. At least that rule's been pretty much gone. But that's where the problem is with this. When the local networks are also concerned, you start seeing all these services that are popping up and wanting to have all the local channels. Some people still like to watch the local channels. You know, not everybody does, but you know, we've talked about the service Tableau. I have that here, and that you're using an outside antenna, as well as it incorporates some of the not as popular streaming services. It's all on one service. I think that's a good potential to have so you can have your local stations, ABC, NBC, you know, CBS and such, and be able to use the antenna part. But then you have all the rest of the streaming stuff too. Then I heard there's another service coming back as it was called Local Plus, I think it is. It's in the Boston area right now, and they're doing the same. They're trying to do the same thing what Locast did years ago until that got shut down because all of the major networks were up in arms because that happened. So it's just fascinating the way things are going with streaming in general, really.
Yeah, it is. And you know, it strikes me before we move on here that we've had 2 major topics tonight. And Apple was part of them. We started out with an Apple topic, and then it sort of shifted. And it just, those things to me, because somebody's going to write in and say, what are you people doing? But it shows that Apple is involved in so many different things. Technology is reshaping so many things that we've known in the past. And not just Apple from a technology standpoint, but just technology in general. But Apple's right in there pitching. There's a baseball reference there somewhere.
They're just trying to tackle it.
Yeah. You got to.
I got that one.
Nice. Oh, good, Jeff. Good. The no sports guy.
Yeah.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.